Welcome to Clothesline Theatre. We have been waiting for you to tune in to hear tales of Prince Edward Island, a place of history and some mystery. You may be surprised by the true stories that have been unearthed and brought to life by our radio dramas. We invite you to settle into a comfortable chair and let the voices and sounds trigger your imagination as you hear the following dramatic story.
When the Great War, now more commonly referred to as World War I, ended, a few of the soldiers returning to the shores of their native Prince Edward Island brought more than their kit bag with them. Though the numbers were not large, some island boys acquired war brides in England and Europe and brought them home to the island. Thomas Corbett Ellis of Harmony, a rural community in western Prince Edward Island, brought back his English bride, Alice Maria, in the fall of 1919.
You need to understand, Alice Maria, that Harmony will be nothing like London. I'm sorry, but we still have to live with my parents and sisters for a time.
As long as I have my strong, handsome soldier by my side, I can be content anywhere, Thomas. Besides, you told me you have a great family, respectable Presbyterians. I hope they don't mind that you have married a daughter of a Methodist clergyman.
I haven't seen them in years. I left home at 17 to work as a carpenter in the United States and Western Canada. Then I enlisted with the 52nd Battalion and was overseas for almost 4 years, so I'm not sure I really know them anymore.
In a way, I cannot believe I left my beloved England and my loving family to come with you to Canada. But love does strange things to one.
I was fortunate to open my eyes in that Army hospital and discover such a beautiful nurse as you, Alice Maria. You gave me the will to live.
It was just trench fever you had, Thomas. But I suppose I should thank those lice. Otherwise, I might never have met you. Imagine, of all the soldiers I nursed, it was you I permitted to capture my heart. And we've been together for 3 years.
Our new life together on Prince Edward Island will be wonderful. This is our station. Welcome to a new life, Alice Maria.
But it quickly became apparent to Alice Maria that Thomas Corbett Ellis, without his soldier's uniform, was not the man she believed him to be. In her own words, she told of him quickly becoming verbally and physically abusive, and that her body showed the marks of his mistreatment. She even credited Thomas's father as saving her life during an altercation. In a time when domestic violence was kept hidden, Alice Maria did not remain silent.
Good afternoon, Alice Maria. Come in and sit down. How are you, dear?
Fine, now that I can take refuge with you, Mrs. Ramsay. Do you mind if I stay a while? Thomas is in one of his rages. He says that it is my fault, for I set him off. I don't know what I would do if I could not come down to the road to you.
Let me pour you a cup of tea, dear. I know marriage is supposed to be a lifetime commitment, Alice Maria, but you have only been here a couple of months, and it appears to be no life for a smart young woman from London. While you can, why don't you go back to England and start over again?
If only I could. But Thomas cashed and kept my gratuity check from the war. He used it to pay off a note to his brother. I have little money, and if I left voluntarily, he would not have to support me.
Poor child, you are trapped, like so many others.
In January 1920, a mere 4 months after the arrival of Thomas and Alice Maria at his parents' home in Harmony, things went from bad to worse. But the stories of the two parties involved greatly varied. According to Alice Maria, her husband, upon learning she was pregnant, became enraged and demanded she go to Toronto to have the baby destroyed. Thomas's version of the story is that upon learning of her wonderful news, he became even more sympathetic to her and made it his one objective in life to make her life happy, if possible. But Alice Maria's actions were not those of a woman lovingly supported by her husband. On Tuesday, the 6th day of January, she got on the noon train at Richmond and traveled into the town of Summerside and consulted with no less than 2 lawyers.
I'm afraid, Mrs. Ellis, there's nothing I can do for you. You have no rights under the law.
I'm afraid I do not have good news. Our land offers no protection to a woman, Mrs. Ellis. There's no way I can assist you.
You are the second solicitor to tell me that. Thank you for your time.
Alice Maria Ellis boarded the westbound evening train and went back to Harmony.
Where have you been?
That would be my business. Take your hands off me, Thomas.
The confrontation escalated, and once again Alice Maria left the house to seek refuge with her neighbors, the Ramseys. She slept on their couch until 4:30 a.m., and then returned to the Ellis house where she went to her room. Nothing more is known of her day until 6 p.m. that evening.
Alice Maria, are you coming down for... Mother, Father, come quickly. It's Alice Maria. I need to go for a doctor.
Alice Maria's body was found in a kneeling position on the floor of the bedroom, her head flung back to expose her slit throat. The blood from her body was drained out on the bed. 2 razors and a pair of scissors were sitting neatly on the bedside table. Thomas rushed from the house to a neighbor's home, that of Alex Murray, to summon Dr. Stewart of Tyne Valley. After asking to use the phone, Ellis told Murray that Alice Maria had been insane for the last 2 or 3 days and that he should have put her away and had her locked up. When Ellis came back to his parents' house, he did not go near the body of his wife.
Should you not go up with her, Thomas?
With all the death that I have seen in the war, I have no interest in holding a lifeless body, Mother.
Dr. Stewart, what do we do now?
Without a doubt, there is need of a coroner's inquest to determine the cause of her death. I will make the necessary arrangements.
An inquest was held the following day, Thursday, January 8th, with a jury made up of local men. They viewed the body and the death scene in the bedroom of Thomas and Alice Maria.
Has the jury reached its verdict in the death of Alice Maria Ellis?
Yes, sir. Based on the evidence presented, the jury has concluded that Alice Maria Ellis died by her own hand in committing suicide.
The family may now proceed with the funeral arrangements for Mrs. Ellis.
Telephone operator, how may I help you?
Yes, operator. Could you put me through to the Attorney General's office in Charlottetown?
One moment, Dr. Stewart. Your party is on the line.
Yes. Good morning, sir. I appreciate you taking my call.
No problem, Dr. Stewart. How may I assist you?
I am calling in regards to a death I was called to several days ago in the community of Harmony. A coroner's inquest yesterday determined that the young woman in question, Alice Maria Ellis, committed suicide. However, it is my suspicion that she was murdered.
That's a serious accusation. On what grounds do you make such a statement, Dr. Stewart?
It comes from my observation of both the room and the manner of the inflicted wound. The woman was right-handed. Therefore, how would she have managed to cut herself on the right side of the throat in a straight slit rather than on a downward slit on the left side, as is the case in the majority of suicidal victims? Also, the slit did not cause her death. It was a stab wound to the neck that caused her body to drain of blood in what I believe would be under a minute. The blood was on the bed, yet Mrs. Ellis was found kneeling on the floor with no blood on either herself or the floor. She could not have moved herself, nor in my opinion could she have placed the razors and scissors so neatly on the table.
The coroner's jury was given these facts, Dr. Stewart?
Yes, I presented them to the jury as I have you, but to no avail.
Obviously, more must be done. Foul play cannot go unpunished. Who might have committed such a heinous deed?
Alice Maria was a war bride of a mere 4 months. Rumors are rampant in the community that her husband, Thomas Ellis, was mistreating her.
Leave the matter with me.
The Attorney General acted quickly, and Thomas Corbett Ellis was arraigned at his home on suspicion of murder and taken to Summerside. As he was being arrested and taken away, he informed his family to spare no expense in the burial of his wife. He pleaded innocence, thus evidence had to be gathered to build a case against him for the trial.
As the Crown Prosecutor, I am of the opinion we need to build a strong case against Thomas Corbett Ellis, who, as a war veteran, will receive a fair share of public sympathy. I want further analysis done on the body of Alice Maria Ellis to confirm without doubt the opinion of Dr. Stewart. As the coroner, I expect you to make that happen.
I'll have the body exhumed and prepared to be sent to Montreal to Dr. McTaggart at McGill University. He's the leading doctor of medical jurisprudence in Canada.
Alice Maria's body was removed from its grave in Tyne Valley, but the entire body was not sent for analysis. Rather, they severed her head, neck, and part of the arm from the body and placed it in preserving fluid and shipped it to Montreal. The opinion of Dr. McTaggart supported the opinion of Dr. Stewart. A jury of 12 men were selected for the trial, which was the curiosity of Prince County. Alice Maria's brother came from England to attend the trial. He heard his sister's name and character maligned as Alice persisted in his story of innocence, saying never had he kicked or beaten Alice Maria, and the only bruises he ever had seen on her body were from falling on ice.
Has the jury reached its decision?
We have, Your Honor. A jury of Thomas Corbett Ellis's peer found him innocent of any wrongdoing.
The newspapers of the day carried extensive coverage of the trial, but never reported on what grounds Ellis was declared innocent. In the aftermath of her death, Alice Maria Ellis had her supporters. One of them anonymously composed a song to make sure her name was not forgotten and her story told.
Do you see the star that twinkles and gleams and burns so bright? The bright red star that lights the sky all in the frosty night. Don't you see beyond its gleaming?
This drama has been brought to you by Wyatt Heritage Properties Incorporated through the support of the Building Communities through Arts and Heritage Program, Department of Canadian Heritage, the Province of Prince Edward Island, and the City of Summerside.
Lured by false tales of fortune, romantic and sublime, she left her home in Blighty for virtue of a climb. Wed to a soldier to whom she thought was good and kind and true. Her romance proved sad like her courtship, her happy days were few. A change from merry England, where lifelong friends were strong, and her parents loved her as she loved and could not see her wrong. They tried to ease her troubled mind and keep her by their side, but she chose to take a fatal step and be a soldier's bride. No father to hear her cry for help, nor the sound of a muffled moan. No mother to watch at the break of day as she sobbed and bled alone. The angels wept as the martyr fell, weary and weak and worn. They caught up her spirit and let her sleep on till the day of judgment morn. In a little country churchyard, she fills a nameless grave, where strangers kindly lay to rest the ashes of the brave. And as we passed her resting place, we moan and heave a sigh, that far from home and journey's end, a violent death should die. Oh, could we get beyond the rail and ease a broken heart, and show to thee some love divine and act a brother's part. But this must be the sorrow that fills our inward soul. We mourn the loss and fear the cross until we reach the goal. We mourn the loss and fear the cross until we reach the goal.
War Bride Murdered in New Home. Cast: Narrator Stuart Smith, Thomas Roger Ahern, Alice Maria Catherine Dixon, Mrs. Ramsey Michelle Askew, Lawyer 1 David Smith, Lawyer 2 Kevin Crossland, Thomas's mother Kathy Clow, Dr. Stewart Wayne Wright, Coroner Dan Casely, Telephone Operator Sheila Young, Coroner Jury Foreman Jake Surrett, Attorney General Jim Dixon, Crown Prosecutor Nick Murray, Trial Jury Foreman Jules Aucoin, Judge Tiber Falzette, Song Catherine and Jim Dixon, Musician Christine Anderson Gallant, Sound Foley's Krista Bryson, Alexandra Gallant, Nathan Wiley, Recording Artist Peter Gallant, Assistant Max Gallant, Writer Marlene Campbell, Researcher and Editor Gene McKay, Production Assistant Sandra Zardi. This drama has been brought to you by Wyatt Heritage Properties Incorporated through the support of the Building Communities Through Arts and Heritage Program, Department of Canadian Heritage, the Province of Prince Edward Island, and the City of Summerside.